So we'll start with this song, Gange Champeya. This is written by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. It is from Amrita Lahari. Gange Champeya Tadidlindi Rochi Pravaha Stapitatma Vinde Bandhu
Bandhu
Iti Divya Vaso Vrinde Arvindam Dharoti Parmandasya
Chitraratna Bharanam Shriyadvi Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Namastavaikunta Shiromano Shri Krishnaya Vrindavanadhanadam Tathadigare Vrishabhanuputra Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Vadanjanaya Pushpanga Mringadibhirdhabake likunja.
Let's do one thing. Let me sing once, one line, and then you can repeat after me. Huh?
Okay.
Madhvadibhirbanti vidushyamana vrinde namaste charanarvindam. You can repeat now.
Madhvadibhirbanti vibhushamana vrinde namaste charanarvindam
Adiyadutyena nikunjayunor atyo kayoke livilasa siddhi.
Vadiyadutena nikunjayuna Atyukayoke livilasa siddhi.
Vatsal bhagankena Vinde namaste
Charanarvindam
Bhagam kena nirishayam tad vrinde namaste charanarvindam
Rasa vilaso vasatischa vrinda Ane twadisangri saroja seva
Rasa vilaso vasati vrinda vane tvadishangri saroja seva
Labhya cha punsam kripaya tavaiva Vrinde namaste charanarvindam Labhya
cha punsam kripaya tavaiva Vrinde namaste charanarvindam
Samkirtya Sattavatatantra Vidbir Leela Bhidana Kila Krishna Shakti
Samkirtayase Sattvatantra Vidbir Leela Vidana Kila Krishna Shakti
Tavai Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam
Tavaiva Murti Sulasindraloke Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam
Bhaktya
Vihina aparadha
Rangamadhye
Bhaktya Vihina Aparartha Lakshe Kamaditarangamadhyate
Kripa Mayi Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste
Charanarvindam
Pamayi Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam
Dastakam ya srinuyat pateta Vrindavanaida sapadabja brinda.
वृन्दास्तनोत्तम या श्रूयात् पठेत् वृन्दावनस्ति पदाब्ज भृङ्ग
Saprapya Vrindavanamedhyavasam Tatprem Sevam Labate Kritartha.
प्राप्य वृन्दावननित्यवासं तत्प्रेम सेवं लभते कृतर्थः।
Thank you very much. These are all the songs from this book. Stavamrita Lahari are the waves of hymns of nectar. Is a well-known book by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura. This work contains many astakam or collection of 8 prayers worshipping different forms of Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. Few writings such as Gurudevastakam and Vrinda Devyastakam are well known to the Vaishnava community. There are 23 songs in the original Stavamrita Lahari as shown below. There are 5 additional songs which have been included later, such as Nikunja Keli, Virdavali, and Rupa Chintamani prayers. Those have been included separately. So, anyway. So these are the songs by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, very famous Vaishnava saint. Let's begin the 8th chapter today. I will do summary of 7th chapter maybe next week. Let's start 8th chapter. So 8th chapter is titled Attaining the Supreme. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutya Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantita Vandeham Shri Guru Shrita Padagamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagarjatam Sargana Raghunatanitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjan Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Dev Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Vita Shri Vishakanitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaskute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shibhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyas Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Chaparitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhattavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Bandayate Giri Yatkapatam Vande Shri Gurun Demigods. Yeah, so 7th chapter is full of the descriptions of qualitative nature of the Supreme Lord. It's chapter 7, some I don't see it here. Yeah, let's begin 8th chapter. I have a summary. I want to do it as a separate presentation. I am missing the presentation right now. So let's begin the 8th chapter, Attaining the Supreme. So in this chapter, Lord Krishna describes how a conditioned soul achieves the highest perfection of his life. how he Arjuna asks certain questions and Lord answers about how and who can attain the supreme. So you can repeat after me. Now you're now used to reading after me. So Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam
Kim tad brahma
kimadhyatmam
kim karma purushottama
kim karma purushottama
Purushottama
adibhutam cha kim proktam
adibhutam
Adibhutam cha kim
proktam
proktam
adidaivam kimuchyate.
adidevam
Ivam
kimuchyate.
kimuchyate.
Once again, Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam
Kim tad
Tad
brahma
Brahma kimadhyatmam
kim karma purushottamam
Kim karma purushottama
Purushottama
adibhutam cha kim proktam
adibhutam cha kim
Adibhutam
proktam
kim proktam
daivam kimuchyate.
adidevam
Devam
kimuchyate.
kimuchyate.
Kim means what? Right? So Arjuna is asking several questions here. If you see Kim, right? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's asking about 5 aspects, right? What are the aspects that he's asking about? Kim tad Brahma means what is Brahman? What is Adhyatmam, the self? Right? What is Brahman? What is Adhyatmam? What is fruitive activities or karma? Kim karma. What is Kim karma? Purushottama, O Supreme Lord. Adibhutam, the Adibhutam, the material manifestation. Adibhutam means the material existence that we see around. Krim proktam Adidhaivam. Who are the demigods? You are talking about demigods who are Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Vayu. In the last chapter, Krishna clearly told the less intelligent people worship demigods. So he wanted to understand more about the demigods. Right? Kim uchyate. Yeah. So what are all these called? So yeah, please read. Anyone?
Yes,
Arjuna.
Prabhuji.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Uma Mataji, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are puritive activities? What is the material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me.
Yeah. So we'll see what the answers from Krishna. So yeah, so in this chapter, Lord Krishna answers different questions from Arjuna, beginning with what is Brahman, right? And he'll also explain about karma, fruitive activities, devotion service, yoga principles, and devotion service in its pure form. Yeah. So one more thing is, if you see here, Arjuna is Uvacha means Arjuna is asking, talking, and when he addressed Krishna, he addressed as Purushottama.
So,
Arjuna has addressed the Supreme Lord as Purushottama, the Supreme Person, which means that he was putting these questions not simply to a friend, but to the Supreme Person, knowing him to be the Supreme Authority, able to give definite answers. Right? So he can expect the best answers because he's asking Lord Krishna directly. Yeah, please repeat after me. Adhiyajna katam kotra
Adiyajna katham kotra
Dehesmin Madhusudhana
Dehesmin
Madhusudana
Madhusudana
Prayana Kali Chakatam
प्रयाणकले च कथम्
कथं
ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः
ज्ञेयोऽसि
आत्मभिः
Hmm. Yeah, please. One second, let me ask. Sagar Prabhu, can you read?
Who is the Lord of sacrifice and how does he live in the body? O
Mhm.
Madhusudana, and how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death?
Hmm. So, who is the Lord of sacrifice? After asking these 5 questions, Kim, and then he's asking further questions. Who is the Lord of sacrifice? Means anybody who performs any sacrifice, whether it is a really, practically yajna, or in that, for that matter, anything one does, who is the ultimate beneficiary of that activity? That is Lord of sacrifice. Right? And how does he live in the body? Right? How does he live in the body? We know the answer. How does he live? Lord live in the body of everybody? Anybody want to say? Just a guess.
Parmat,
Paramatma.
Perfect. So Lord lives in the Jiva body as Paramatma. So Madhusudana. And how can those engaged in devotion service know you at the time of death? Right? What is the process one should follow in his life so that at the time of prayanakale, means at the time of death, the most important time, because that determines your future birth, right? Whether you are going to be born in this material world or you are going to attain the Lord, Vaikuntha, right? So, how can those engaged in devotion service, right, know you at the time of death? What is the process one should follow? Please continue reading.
yes, Prabhu. Lord of sacrifice may refer to either Indra or Vishnu. Vishnu is the chief of the primal demigods, including Brahma and Shiva, and Indra is the chief of the administrative demigods. Both Indra and Vishnu are worshipped by yajna performances. But here Arjuna asks who is actually the Lord of yajna and how the Lord is residing within the body of the living entity.
How he resides. So Krishna is going to answer these 2 questions. Who is the ultimate beneficiary of all the yajnas? Ultimate beneficiary. And how does he reside in the heart, in the body of the jiva? Yeah. So why Arjuna addressed Krishna as a Madhusudana? Madhusudana means, any guesses?
The killer of the demon, Madhu.
Madhu, yeah. Just like you killed the demon Madhu, oh Lord, please kill the demon of question, doubts in my mind. So these are all questions by Arjuna. He wanted clarity, from all these questions. So that is described in this. And then Prayanakale means is very significant because whatever we do in life will be tested at the time of death. So life is like preparation, death is like examination, right? So we need to, so our life has to be led in such a way that ultimately we pass the exam, right? Because that will determine your next life. Yeah. Yeah. So further, Prabhupada clarifies. Sri Bhagavan Vacha. Now Krishna answers. Okay, now you can repeat after me. Sri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Vacha.
Aksharam Brahma Paramam.
Aksharam Brahma Paramam
Swabhavo Jatmamuttate.
Svabhavodhyatmamuchyate
Bhuta Bhavakaro
Bhuta Bhavakaro
Sarga dharma samajjita.
Visarga
Visarga
Karma
samajjita.
samjita.
Sam,
Samjita.
samyut. Yeah, correct. Samyuta.
Samhita.
Yeah. So now Lord is answering. Okay. Aranya Mataji, can you read?
Sure, Prabhuji. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma or fruitive activities.
So he's answering very nicely here. So the transcendental living entity is called Brahman. Right? Who is Brahman? Brahman is referring to the Jiva, the soul, Atman. Atman is in nature Brahman because he is transcendental. He is not material. Transcendental means non-material, right? Anti-material. Material means made of gross elements, and it is destructible. But Brahman or the transcendental living entity, the living entity, the true nature of the living entity is that it is indestructible. So such Jiva is called Brahman, or everybody, actually every Jiva is a Brahman. We don't realize that at this point. And his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, because he's the place where he actually belongs. Right now we belong to material world where everything is temporary, but where he belongs originally is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of material bodies. Right? Why we develop material bodies? Because of the past karma. Right? Otherwise there is no need for the material body. So the action pertaining to the material body, development of material body of living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities. So the desire to attain things of this world, temporary things of the world, gives us the temporary material body. So right now we are engaged in the temporary material body because of the actions we performed in the past. So actions pertaining to the development of material body of the living is called karma, or fruitive activities. Yeah.
Prabhu,
Actually,
one question.
Go ahead.
So Brahman is nothing but Mahavishnu that we discussed before.
Yeah, same thing. Brahman word is used on, it's a multivalent word. So it referred to different things in different contexts. So Brahman is also one aspect of realization. For example, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, three realizations we discussed. Brahman realization is realizing the Sat feature of the Supreme Lord. Sat means eternal, right? So in literal terms, Brahman means pure consciousness. Okay, pure consciousness means that is the pure consciousness is the nature of the soul. Chit, our true nature is called Chit. The Atman's nature is called Chit. It's a pure, unadulterated consciousness, right? So when that is, when that is, refers to the realization aspect, it's also the relation of the pure consciousness, that's called Brahman realization, or realizing the Sat feature of the Supreme Lord. And then next is Chit feature of the Lord. Chit means how Lord is not just eternal, not just Lord and the self, both are eternal and transcendental and pure consciousness. Not just that, the Lord is also supremely powerful. He is the one who is within my body and driving this body, right? So the Jiva is not driving the body. The Jiva is only desiring, and the Supreme Lord, who is within the heart of every Jiva, he is the one facilitating all the desires of the Jiva, right? So not just, I mean, he's within my body, he's driving my body. Within this universe, he drives this universe as the Garbhodak Sai Vishnu. And the same Garbhodak Sai Vishnu, so he is like the soul of the universe, right? And all of this again comes from Mahavishnu, right? Multiple millions of such universes come from the one source, Mahavishnu. So in this way, he is the source of everything. So Brahman refers to the nature of that that absolute truth, and the nature which only captures the eternality of that of the absolute truth. Okay, Paramatma captures the Sat Chit, the knowledge aspect, knowledge that this supreme is not just eternal. I am eternal, supreme is eternal. Not just that, that supreme is actually the one who is managing this whole manifestation. He is the source. He is the Vishnu who is the soul of the universe, and who is this, the driver of my body. Realizing the infinite energies of the supreme, that is called knowledge of the absolute truth, right? Realizing Sat and Chit features both, that is called Paramatma realization. Means you not just realize that you are eternal, but Bhagavan is eternal. You also realize that actually there is that Paramatma, that is the driving force of everything. That relation is called Paramatma relation. And higher than Paramatma relation is Bhagavan relation. Bhagavan relation means actually this Paramatma is an expansion of Bhagavan. Okay, so Bhagavan is not just the the supremely energetic who is driving me and the whole universe and everything. He's also the most lovable person. We can have the most loving exchanges with that person. So that is realizing Bhagavan, like Lord Krishna aspect of it. So these are the levels of realization. A Gnani yogi, a yogi who is who perfects in his understanding of the absolute truth, he may only realize the Sat aspect of the absolute truth. Sat means realizing that realizing the eternality of the jiva, realizing the eternality of the absolute truth, right? So that is the first level of self-realization, jnana yoga, right? And then he realizes, yes, there is some absolute truth, there is some eternal truth. I want to pursue and understand more about it. When he does that, Jnani now sits down in meditation and tries to meditate on the Paramatma within the heart. And then through the process of Jnana, Ashtanga Yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asanas, Pranaha, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, he attains the understanding of who that Paramatma is. He can actually witness that Paramatma within the heart. He can see face to face the Paramatma within the heart. So that relation is called Paramatma relation. Then now he realizes that actually there is this Paramatma who is the source of everything in this manifestation. He is the soul of the universe. He is the real maintainer of myself. Right? This is higher than just realizing the eternality of the absolute truth. Sat and Chit, second aspect. And higher than this is this Paramatma is not just the source of everything. Okay, that's great. We appreciate Paramatma is absolute truth. He is the source of everything. Not just that. I want to love that person and serve him. That is Bhagavan relation. This is higher than Paramatma relation. Now, when the yogi understands, hey, this Paramatma is a person. He is a reciprocal person. And now he loves him, adores him, he worships him, and he becomes his devotee. Then he comes to a stage of Bhagavan relation and becomes his devotee. That is the path of bhakti. Okay, you see the Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and then he advances to Bhakti Yoga. this is now with a lot of clarity on who that absolute truth is, right? So that's why accepting a personality like Rama and Krishna and worshipping them is considered much higher than any of the other yogas. And it is also very difficult for normal jivas to accept a person like them to be actually the absolute truth. Because in our experience, we see everybody like us. And how can a God be so powerful? It's very difficult to accept. That's why it is considered much higher. You need to have a lot more faith, a leaps of faith to actually accept, a person as God. Okay, so it requires. That's why, like many devotees who actually worship, they would have done already Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga in their past lives. Now they come to Bhakti Yoga, because you try to teach any Ashtanga yogi about worshipping Lord Krishna. It's very difficult for them. It's not something that they can accept naturally. So because it requires a lot more faith in transcendental things. So that's why, even though some people think worshipping Lord this might seem like the simplest process, and maybe is comparatively lower process than Ashtanga yoga, Jnana yoga. No, actually, it is higher than that in terms of the process itself, and because it requires a lot more faith, a leap of faith compared to understand the eternality of the absolute. That requires no faith, in fact, because it's so easy to understand that you are eternal, right? You can understand that you're not this body because it's very clear. I gave you a lot of examples already. For example, you can see through your eyes, but the eye is not the one who is seeing. There is something within us who is seeing. Eye is just an instrument for it. Just like camera can be an instrument for us, eye is just an instrument. Then who is that? It's not my. You can say it's not my heart. It's not my head. It's not my brain. Then who is it? It must be something other than my body. It must be something beyond my physical body. So one can become a Jnana Yogi without any faith. You can start, you just need to be a little bit inquisitive and thoughtful. You can get onto the path of Jnana Yoga. Once he comes to Jnana Yoga stage, now he realizes, okay, there is the reality of, there is a higher reality than ourselves. Now at this stage, it's easy for him to, sit down, meditate, and worship that absolute truth that he doesn't, he cannot perceive through his senses. Now he meditates, sits down and performs Ashtanga Yoga, then finally realizes Paramatma feature of it. Then, with that faith, now he is confirmed that there is this Paramatma within the heart. Now, with that faith, now it's very easy for him to become a devotee, because at that point his faith is now very crystallized. Okay, Bhakti can be attained at that stage much easily compared to the way we are practicing. Now we don't know, like really whether Lord Krishna is the absolute truth. Of course, we hear from gurus, we hear from scriptures, we hear directly from Krishna, and with that faith in the words of Krishna, we accept the path and practice it. So Bhakti Yoga can be started by a person who doesn't go through the Ashtanga Yoga and Jnana Yoga also. It doesn't require that. But to make real leaps of progress, right? So one need to perform sadhana bhakti sincerely. And if by good fortune, if he had done Ashtanga Yoga before and he perfected there, he can also easily attain there. So that's why I said, the yogas are not independent paths to attain God. They are actually like a ladder. Jnana Yoga is like the lower ladder. Ashtanga Yoga is the middle layer. And then above that is Bhakti Yoga. Right? They take your realization from one level to the next level to the higher level. Right? So that's how the paths are compared. Yeah. So Brahman refers to many things. I'm trying to answer this question, but we went a little bit tangential. So The indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahman. Okay, Brahman means something that is the pure consciousness that is eternal. The body is not eternal, but the real self is eternal. Similarly, the absolute truth is eternal. Okay, so attaining actions pertaining to, so the body, physical body, the material body is developed because of one's karma. So Rinku Mataji is asking, how can bhakti can be easy for everyone? Because it depends on the nature of the person. Yes, it is simple for this, simple-hearted people. I would say that way. Some people are a little bit complicated, and for them, it's not that easy. I was like that because I started my spiritual journey in Ashtanga Yoga. So I started, doing meditation for, like a long time actually. For more than a year, I was going to different paths. And then when I learned about Bhakti Yoga, right, it was very difficult for me to accept like a person as the Supreme Lord, because it wasn't that easy for my nature. I have a lot of questions, and it took a while to basically to develop faith. Yeah, for the simple-hearted people, it is the path is very easy. And
Question, Prabhuji. So I know many people. So there are some godmen, right? There are nowadays many godmen. They maybe read from the scriptures and they proclaim themselves as God. But I know the disciples were really good. Like as you mentioned, they have sincere bhakti towards them. They put in the wrong place maybe, but they are really good. So how they once afterwards, when they know that that person is not the correct, they feel really bad and they lose path. So why this is happening? So they are also good, right? That those people.
So the person who is worshipped, if he is really God, it will be mentioned in the scriptures. Like for example, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and that is accepted by Bhishma and many Vyasa, many great acharyas. And so it was written in our scriptures, Vedas, right? All incarnations were mentioned ahead in time, like the incarnations that will come in the future, Kalki, and when he is coming, where he is coming, what are his activities. So, for example, if you saw, like in the Bhagavatam, when we read, from Bhumi Gita a few days back, we saw Lord Buddha will come. It's written like that because the scripture was written beforehand. So it said, Lord Buddha will come, and he appears as the son of Vishnu Yasa. His father's name is also mentioned. So in that way, Lord's incarnations are all mentioned, and there is no incarnation at the current moment in the this century or in the future centuries. At least we need to pass 400,000 years before the next incarnation. So so any other people who are claiming themselves to be incarnations, or their disciples claiming the God, their guru to be God, they're all not bona fide as per the scriptures. So if you accept wrong person, you won't get anywhere, because it's completely, if you like, it's like buying a rolled gold and thinking that it is gold, you got cheated, right? So it's not any better than that. Okay, so what happens to them? They go where their so-called the god man goes, right? And they're not really, and they're not getting a good end. That's why the problem is most people just are blind followers. They don't refer to Bhagavad Gita. Why did they like that guru? Because that guru had fulfilled some desires. They got some health problem, and that there are siddhis that any person can, through yogic practice, attain those siddhis, and can, just like, for example, my uncle is a doctor. He was trained for 6 years in treating people. Now he can go and treat. So similarly, one can practice siddhas and perform austerities and attain certain abilities which are subtle. This is, doctor means he's a gross person. I mean, he's going to grossly treat physical body. And this yogi or siddha, he can treat through his, what do you call, through his attained powers, right? There are many so-called godmen who can treat diseases, who can cure things, and for that matter, they should claim that these are siddhis, and I could treat only by the mercy of God, and these siddhis are just a subtle form of physical abilities. So it's not, but it's not really, I'm not God. They should really accept the fact. I have personally seen a person who can walk on water, for example, right? This is also one form of siddhi. You can do the same, but on a boat, you can ride on a boat, a physical thing. But you can also, through siddhis, you can attain certain abilities like walking on water, becoming smaller or lighter than, lighter than a paper. You can float in air. There are certain siddhis too. For example, you can desire something, a fruit from Kabul, and get it here. It's also a form of siddhi. So there are so many siddhis one can attain through practice of Ashtanga yoga, right? Ashtanga yoga, as you practice, you get these abilities. You become, superhuman, right? Not like any other ordinary humans. You basically, these people attain control over subtle nature. Just like when you study medicine, you develop knowledge and skill which not other people know, right? You know how to treat a stomach issue, or how to operate and cure. So similarly, these people attain powers at the subtle level, right? They can control your mind. They can, magically produce these things. But again, they're all called mystic powers. And most people who don't know anything, right, who are dull and dumb, they don't know, they haven't read any scriptures, they hear this or they see this, they start worshipping the people. They get some help, they get cured of a disease or something, and they think this person is God. How can anybody produce ash from nowhere? How can anybody produce gold chain from nowhere? These are all siddhis only, but people with no knowledge, they think that they are actually God. So that is where the problem comes. God is far superior. God is not just going to produce a, like a small chain. He can produce a mountain of gold. He can lift a, an entire hill on his little pinky, right, in his little finger. And he can show universal form, which, you can. So if any person claims to be God, you should ask him, okay, show your universal form or lift a Govardhana hill, right? Then you will know whether he's really God. Okay. So Lord is like sun, right? So when there is full of darkness, even this like insect that sheds light, right? In the night times in India, you see these insects that can shed some light. They can attract your attention. But what is that light? What is the power of that light? It's very minuscule, right? It's it can produce light enough to see something around that insect. So that is the power of these yogis. All these yogis are like that. They're like these tiny insects who can show some light, right? Lord is like sun. He is the source of all light. When Lord is there, all these yogis, they have they cannot show off their lives, right? So it's like that. I mean, Lord is far superior. There is no comparison. He can create millions of universes. And in spite of that, he knows everybody, he knows everything, being the Paramatma of everything. So don't go after anytime, right? People, unfortunately, because of their lack of knowledge and experience, they think God can be so cheap, but God is not cheap. God is far superior. Did that answer, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. That's true, Prabhuji. There are many Tongi Baba in India. Yeah, in India, you see every street has a god. Every corner you find a Baba. Okay, so yeah, God is far superior. No, this Baba, that Baba, don't believe them unless you ask them. Okay, where in the scriptures it is mentioned, you are the Lord. Okay, there should be a very clear quote in any of the Puranas or Vedas. Ask for it. Okay, God is not so cheap. The thing is, it's not the person who claims to be God. It is the followers who want to make him as God, because they can run their business in that name, right? And so there are some real fake Babas who actually want to, get name, fame, and money, and so they want to act like God, right? That's convenient position. It's like a profession for them, right? For no good reason, they get all good name. Why not try it, right? Only the genuine sadhus, they never claim. Prabhupada never claimed himself to be God. Look at Prabhupada and look at all these great teachers you hear, right? Sadguru, this and that. So many gurus are there today. So whenever Prabhupada talks about anything, whatever credit he wrote all these books, he did build so many temples, but whenever he speaks, he always positions himself in a very humble state. He thinks that all the followers that he had were all sent by his guru. He always, in gratitude, remembers his guru in everything he speaks. Okay, so that shows the nature of the guru, because guru is supposed to be just a transparent medium to God. As soon as there is an ego that I am guru, I am the one to teach, and everybody is lower than me, then he's not. He's not acting as a transparent medium for God. Guru is, when you hear a guru, you should remember more about God, not guru. Okay, so that's another way to understand. If I am teaching all of this, if you remember about Krishna more, then my teaching is success. Okay, it's not about me here. I'm just a tiny insect, you can say. It's nobody. Okay, if I don't present the message correctly, then I'm actually doing injustice. I should become a transparent medium for you. I should become, bring you closer to God. That is the purpose of a guru, teacher. Okay, so if a guru, if after hearing a guru you're trying to remember guru more, actually the purpose is defeated, because his whole purpose is to make you remember God more, make you understand the nature of God better. That is a true guru. Whenever you hear all these babas, see whether that aspect is coming. Is he making you to remember God more, or is he making you to mesmerize about him more? You don't want that, right? So that reveals who is a real guru. Making sense? Yeah. So whenever a guru speaks, another aspect is the guru refers to whatever he sees. He says it should refer to what other sadhus said. It should not be his own mental concoction. it should be something that has already been spoken by other great acharyas, or it should be a direct reference from scripture. Whatever he speaks should be backed up by the scripture, because it's like a law book. If I'm a liar, I should not go beyond the law book. Correct? So everything I speak should be perfectly in line with the scriptures, perfectly in line with other gurus. Look at all these gurus. They speak something, they have nothing, no reference to God, no reference to scripture. They never could back their statements with that. So there is no authority. Basically, he is the authority mostly. And because he is another jiva, it will have all the faults that the jiva has. Right? The conditioned soul has 4 defects. And by his own effort, he cannot fully present the absolute truth. So all the defects of the conditioned soul reflect in all these gurus who don't refer to scriptures, because their knowledge or the words they speak is limited by what they know and what they speak, right? And because they are part of this middle world and they have no reference to scripture, whatever they speak is limited by their own intelligence, and we don't want to go that path, right? Tomorrow there could be a better speaker who can speak much better than this guru. What about that? Now you feel that, hey, I heard this guru and now this guru is speaking something else. How do I know which is right? You'll be confused, you will be lost, because there will always be better speakers in this world. And all these speakers, they only speak from their intelligence. No, you're bewildered. You don't know whether this guy is correct or that guy is correct. But the way we are speaking, we always reference scriptures. This is what for thousands of years, the acharyas have spoken. And so there is authority. You can learn this, go peacefully and sleep, and this process works, because it has stood the test of time. Thousands and thousands of people in the past have followed this path and they have attained perfection. Whether I realize this truth right now is secondary, but at least the path I'm following is absolutely perfect. I may not be not perfect, but because I'm referring to an authoritative book, authoritative scripture, you can't imagine. I went to so many, some of the fake Babas in the past. I don't want to name them now. Their intentions, maybe some of them are good people. They don't have the desire for name, fame, but they're not referring to the scripture. So how do you know what they're speaking is right? Tomorrow somebody else can come and tell me, no, what that guru told is wrong. Now I'm teaching the real truth. He can say something. And tomorrow some other guy can come and say, no, both the gurus are wrong. I am telling the real truth. And you could be a better speaker than all these others. How do you know what is right? So that's why don't rely on these, people who don't have reference to scriptures. Just forget however good they may speak. Don't look at them. Don't hear them. It's just going to spoil your consciousness. Right? So this is an important caution as we progress, especially we're all in the initial stages. As we make progress spiritually, our bhakti is like a creeper. Creeper means like a germinating plant at this time. And if we expose to all these fake gurus, our faith may be shaken sometimes. Yeah, so it's very challenging. Yeah, Rinku Mother has a question. Prabhuji, what if a person chant without having a guru and one day die? Then what will happen to that person? Yeah, so what happens to a person who dies without having a guru? So guru is the person who actually helps us, connects us to the parampara, right? He connects us to the parampara. He is the one recommending authority for us to the absolute truth, right? Guru means I'm like a guide only. I'm not guru. I have a guru, Srila Radhana Swami. So he has, his guru is Srila Prabhupada. So when we are not connected in parampara, so when we chant the holy name, our heart is getting purified, but we won't get the highest perfection we want to attain, right? So as you progress, ultimately at some point you would, when you are ready for it, automatically all of these things happen. Don't worry when you are, when you will have a guru. When you are ready, Paramatma is there with you in the heart. He will make you the right arrangements to reach your guru. That just happens. That's a natural arrangement Lord makes, and you will be connected to the parampara, and you will. So as per the scriptures, yes, guru is needed. You cannot, because you cannot go yourself to absolute truth by your own efforts. Even Lord Krishna, when he comes to the material world, just to set a good example, he accepts a guru. His guru is Sandipan Muni. When Lord Chaitanya was there, he accepted guru. His guru is Ishwar Puri. Vedavyas, who authored all the scriptures, he accepted a guru. Who is his guru? Anybody? Any guesses?
Narada Muni.
Yes, Narada Muni, because in the Srimad Bhagavatam class we are discussing this, correct? So Narada Muni is his guru. And even though he has vast knowledge, he has written all the scriptures already, all the 4 Vedas, Vedanta Sutras and everything. But when his guru came, he humbly prostrated before him and inquired from him. So before the guru, one should put himself in a very humble, just like Arjuna is putting himself before Lord Krishna. One should humbly present, one should accept himself as a fool before Guru, right? And follow the instructions of the Guru. Yeah, one needs to have, he will have a very much better life just because of the effect of chanting, but it's not going to be possible for him to attain perfection just by that, without having a perfect Guru. Yeah, let's read the 4th verse. Adibhutam Ksharo Bhava
Adibhutam Ksharo Bhava
Purushashchadi Daivitam
Purushasthadi Devatam
Adi Yajnoham Evatra
Adiyajnoham Evatra
Dehe Deha Bhritam Vara.
Dehe Deha Vara.
Now is answering next set of questions. Yeah, Chana Mataji, please read.
Yes, Babaji. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adibhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adhidaiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the Supersoul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adhiyajna, the Lord of Sacrifice.
Now he answered 3 aspects. The physical nature, the all surroundings around us, which is constantly changing, correct? You will never say the same thing in the nature. It's always in a moment of change. It's called Adibhuta. Adibhuta means the material manifestation. For example, your own body keeps changing. You were a boy earlier. Now you are a grown-up man, right? So like that, everything in the physical world, earlier there were no buildings, now there are so many buildings. So in the material manifestation, Adibhuta, something that always changes. Right? That's called physical nature. Adibhuta, physical nature. Okay. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adidaiva. Adibhuta is manifestation, physical manifestation. Adidaiva is all the demigods. he says the universal form of the Lord. The demigods who are in the higher planetary systems, they are controllers of various facilities. For example, rain is a facility within the demigod, just like there are departments. Just like a city has departments of sanitation, there is water supply, there is revenue department, there is civil supplies, and there are departments for every aspect of our living, correct? The needs of our living. So similarly, for the universal affairs, there is arrangement of rains, there is arrangement of sunlight, there is arrangement of vegetables, there is medicines. All these things are actually coming from earth ultimately. Earth and air. So all these things that we depend on, these are universal affairs that were controlled by the demigods. And they are called Adi Daiva. Many of us we accepted as as available. We just take that for granted, but actually it's an arrangement of the Lord. Then we appreciate in gratitude that Lord has arranged for our living. So that gratitude comes when we recognize this Adi Daiva aspect. And I, the Supreme Lord, you see, Krishna accepts himself. Adi Yagno Aham Evatra. Adi Yagno Aham Evatra. Dehe Deha Britam Vara. Dehe Deha means in the body. He is the central representative of the body. The Supreme Lord, I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every living being, is called Adi Yajna, the Lord of sacrifice. Everything is ultimately offered to that Adi Yajna, right? The super soul within the heart of every jiva. Very clear, right? 3 definitions. Adibhuta, physical manifestation. Adi Daiva, the demigods who are in charge of material affairs, universal material affairs. And then Adi Yajna, the Paramatma within the heart. And it is actually an expansion of the Lord Krishna himself. Right? I, the Supreme Lord, represented as a super soul in the heart of every living, every embodied being. You see? When you go to spiritual world, you are not an embodied being. You are a liberated soul. Super soul exists only in the embodied being. Super soul doesn't exist in your heart when you are in the spiritual world. That's one aspect that is not covered here, but I'm just telling you. So when you are liberated and you are back in Vaikuntha, you have no material body, you have a spiritual body. And Anandambudhi Vardhana, every minute is full of bliss and happiness there. And there is no need for Paramatma in the heart there, because you have a spiritual body there. Just like you have a material body here, there you will have a spiritual body.
Prabhu, one question.
Yes, Prabhu.
So, are the demigods in subtle form or bodily form?
Demigods are in subtle form. They are not in the gross material form like us. So the higher you go, they become subtler and subtler.
Right.
For example, the body of Brahmaji, Lord Brahma, is totally made of only a single element. We have 8 elements in material nature: earth, water, air, ether, and 5. Right? 5 elements, 5 gross material elements. The 3 subtle elements are mind,
intelligent ego,
and ego. So Brahmaji is made of only intelligence. Imagine that's why he's very smart. He's the most smartest person in the world, in the creation, in the universe. Okay? So
How about Indra, Prabhuji?
they have subtle body, primarily subtle body. not the gross body. So that's why it is mentioned like they'll never grow old in the demigod planets. They'll remain youth always, and when the time is over, the time is over, they just fall to the middle world like a comet. They fall like a comet. So there are 33 crore such demigods, and they just fall like a comet, and they continue to live. It's like there is no disease, there is no death in the.
No hunger also, Prabhuji. No, they don't need not eat. Okay.
They would eat, but it's all subtle. We can't understand from in the middle world. We can't relate to what they eat. But
because you've heard so many stories that they don't blink, they don't eat, they don't walk with the legs. All those so many stories we have.
yeah, they don't walk with legs. They're not like, they don't have physical legs. For example, when they appear for somebody like Saraswati or Mother Saraswati, they won't find their legs, right? And the flowers they wear are ever fresh. There are like such descriptions, but again, these are subtle form, right? They are not spiritual form, so they're not like the best of the best. In the previous ages, Kali Yuga, there is no interaction with direct interaction with demigods. In the previous age, for example, during Pandava's time, there was some interaction. Like for example, when Kunti Maharani prays to Lord Indra appears and he gives Arjuna as the son, correct? So, so there were far more interactions in the previous ages, right? So I mean, with each age, things are slightly different. And today, if you tell anybody, hey, there are demigods, it goes out of their head because they can't relate to things what they can't see, right? Because of the the current social experiences and all, they can't really relate to these things. So those who have knowledge of the scriptures, only those people can accept these principles. Yeah, it's like showing a laptop to somebody in the forest who always lived in forest. You suddenly showed a laptop, they'll be surprised completely. It's like you can only relate to anything only when you have that level of scope of knowledge, right? So it's like that. I mean, at this point we can't relate, but there are, as you practice, as you study, these things become quite relatable actually. In the beginning, one may think, all these things we are speaking, are they really true? Are the demigods really there? Who knows really? All these are said, but but you see, like at Arjuna's time, for Mother Kunti, talking to Indra is like a is just like as much a reality of talking to anybody else. So with each age, the experiences differ, and the kind of abilities people have differ. Kali Yuga being the lowest of all, we don't. We just need to accept on faith this existence. This is not our current experience, but we still have the faith that Lord Krishna wouldn't bluff, right? Like we absolutely believe the fact. We absolutely believe in the fact of the divinity of Lord Krishna, and when he speaks, we accept it in true faith, right? So that's how a devotee believes, right? My guru has no problem in accepting. Why would I, right? And his guru has the same kind of faith, and his guru, going back to Krishna. So why would I doubt any of this, right? I just believe 100%, no question of doubt about that fact. Yeah. Any other question? Yeah, that's true. Let's explain here. Let's read. Yeah, this is a very famous verse. Please read after me. Very important verse. Antakale cha mameva
Antakale cha mameva
Smaran mukta kalevaram
Smaranmukta kalevaram
Yah prayati samadbhavam
Yat prayati samadbhavam
Yati nasti atra samsaya.
Yadi nasti atra samshaya.
Once again, Antakale cha mameva
Antakale cha mameva
Smaran mukta kalevaram
Smaranmukta kalevaram
Yah prayati samadbhavam
Yat prayati samadbhavam
Yati nasti atra samsaya.
Yadi nasti atra samshaya.
Yeah. Harsha cell phone. Can you read?
Sure, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone at once, attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt.
Yati nasti atra samsaya. Don't doubt it. So you see, such an assurance, you won't find such assurance in any other books or any other knowledge, scriptures. Whoever, antakale cha mameva, at the end of his life, smaran muktva kalevaram, quits his body. Smaran mukta, smaran means remembering. Quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Means you will attain the nature, the spiritual world where he belongs, where he stays, right? Eternally. Of this, there is no doubt. You don't doubt about it. So, the whole point is remembering Lord at the time of death. Remembering me alone. Again, so very clear. It's just with a lot of clarity. Just me alone, right? Nothing else. Very emphatic, powerful statement. It's about how do you remember Lord at the time of death is the question now, right? How do you remember? Okay, at the time of death, it's such a painful experience for anybody to leave the body is a very tough emotional trauma because you are used to this body, enjoying in this. Now all this is taken from you. So it's a emotional breakdown for anybody. But at the time, without worrying about your immediate situation, if one can remember Lord at that difficult time, right? It's not just physical pain. One is that there is going to be a lot of physical pain at the time of death. It's also emotional pain. Emotionally, one is really suffering. Is going to suffer. Now, how is he going to remember Lord? That is only possible when you practice throughout your life. If throughout your life, if you practice remembering Lord, then remembering Lord at the time of death is very easy. Of this, there is no doubt. Very clear. Okay?
Prabhuji, you mentioned that like subtle body, the Indra, all those people, they once their punya is over, they'll come back to world, right? So here they are mentioning that they will reach me. So once we reach God, there is no coming back. Is that true?
Correct. Correct. Once we reach God. I mean, Indra doesn't mean that like current Indra's name is Purandara. He's a great devotee. Like it depends on who that person is actually. It doesn't mean that every jiva, every demigod had to come to material world before going back to God. There are great devotees, right? So they actually sometimes they directly go back to Krishna, right? From that place itself. And most of the demigods are great devotees. Don't underestimate them. They are all demigods because they actually are far more qualified, right? Just like you want to, if somebody becomes a minister, he is definitely worthy of the position. That is why he got the position, right? So similarly, these actually it is mentioned one can become a demigod if one lives about 100 lifetimes without committing any sin, right? So that is the qualification to become a demigod. But to attain God, you just need to remember God, right? Whether you are in the earthly planet or higher planet, it doesn't matter. If you can remember Lord, that's why I say, whatever you do, whatever you say, always keep the holy name in your tongue. Keep Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, always on your tongue, whatever you do, right? Somebody said, I can die anytime, Who? So if only I die while doing something else, why I miss the chance, right? So whatever you do when you're working, sometimes just say Hare Krishna like that, right? So there is nothing you would lose. You would only attain the power of Lord's mercy, right?
Another question, Prabhuji. So you mentioned that we have to chant loud, right? But we'll be working somewhere outside, and also, is it still okay outside? We can think in mind,
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
It doesn't mean, manasa vacha. So it can be from your mouth or it can be in your mind. When you have opportunity, speak loud, right? Especially when you are chanting in the morning, right? On your beats, if you have beats, that you should definitely do in a way that you can at least hear. You at least should be able to hear, if not anybody else, right? Because the power is in hearing the holy name.
And we can open our eyes that time chanting, or we have to close our eyes while
Open
chanting.
your eyes, no problem. But ideally, it should not search for things, right? The focus is on hearing the name. Right? Even though eyes are doing whatever it is doing, you can see for inspiration like other devotees who are chanting, for example. But otherwise, also you can just mainly focus. The whole point is just speak and hear. That's all. No imagination, no nothing. That just keeps on purifying your heart. Every day you are accumulating, so much cleansing, right? Yeah. Any other questions? Harsha, you have a question?
Yeah, Prabhuji, actually, I do have a question. So in theory, one can also understand this translation as, if you don't do anything for the rest of your life and only when you're dying, you remember God, does that mean you will still attain his nature?
Yes, that's the trick. But do you think it is easy? It's not possible actually. If you don't practice throughout your life, it's like, can I write all answers correct without preparing for the exam? It's like, you may think like, hey, what is so difficult, just remembering Lord, I'll remember, no worries. I'll practice. I don't need to worry, I'll practice towards my end of life and try to remember. We think like that, but it's not easy. That I'm telling you, right? I remember one devotee was talking about, so when they were flying in the air, in an aircraft, suddenly the flight started shaking and everybody panicked and everybody was calling their, mommy's name, daddy's name, or, everybody got scared. And they were worried and anxiety, but the devotee understood this may be a moment of death. Let me take shelter of the holy name. And he was just chanting, sitting down peacefully. Because anyway, there is not much to do in this world, right? If you attain the abode of Lord, what more, right? I mean, he didn't, he didn't for a moment think, of anything else. He was just focused on chanting, and of course, nothing happened. Everybody landed safely, and probably it is because of that person is there in the flight, the devotee who was remembering Lord at the difficult time. Everybody was saved. But the point is that Smaran, he got that thought that I should chant take shelter of the holy name and forget about everything else. I have no control on anything else except what I do from my mouth. This is a thing in my control and I will do it. So you should see, so whenever we are in difficulty, we focus more on what we don't have control on, and you feel helpless. You feel disempowered because your thoughts are focused on what you don't have control on. I'm not just talking about just remembering the holy name. You have to think about what you have control on, and with that, do empower yourself, right? In a way that you can face the situation in a better way.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Like if a person is spiritual throughout his whole life and during the time of death, if for some reason, maybe because of the physical pain or something else, if he could not remember the name of the God, so what will happen to that person in the next birth?
This is a question that Sri Ramanujacharya, have you heard about Ramanujacharya?
Yes, Prabhuji. But
yeah. His disciple asks him, what if I don't remember? I live all my life in your service, my Guru, but what if I don't remember Lord's name, Lord at the time of death? And Ramanujacharya went to the deity and posed this question. And in his dream, Lord came and he said, don't worry, if my devotee don't remember me, I will remember him. That is the answer we got. So for a devotee, it is an exception, because all his life, what is he doing? He was only serving Lord. It never happens that he will forget Lord at the time of death because of his constant engagement in his service. But even if it happens, Lord reassures. You would see in this chapter, by the answer to that question. I'm just jumping guns, but so Lord will remember the devotee. He's very dear to Lord. Devotee means he's a very dear person to the Lord. It's not like he's partial to devotee. It's just reciprocation, because how do you, if you have two children, one guy doesn't listen to you at all, always pranks, he will pinch you, and the other guy always tries to listen to you, always serves you. How would you reciprocate with that person versus the other person who pinches you? He's not partial to the person who is nicely treating his parent. It's just a reciprocation. So Lord also reciprocates with the devotee in a very loving way, right? So whoever at the end of his life fits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this, there is no doubt. You don't doubt it, Arjuna. This is the highest truth. You see, you understand now why we are practicing Bhakti Yoga, why we are chanting, why we are trying to purify our heart. This path is the most bona fide, perfect path. It has been tested through centuries, and it's the easiest path. You could be doing anything and still attain perfection by following this path. See, such a simple path. You don't need to practice Ashtanga Yoga. You don't need to become a jnani. You just remember Lord's name. But it's so difficult because of the conditioning we have. We remember everything about everything else, but not Lord's name.
Prabhuji, especially if you're attached to a lot of things, you'll probably hanker for those attachments, right? Or things that you couldn't do with your life, or things that you wanted to do. Yeah.
So the whole study of Bhagavad Gita and hearing these classes, the whole purpose is to pivot our consciousness to the absolute truth, right? Refocus our energies on the ultimate goal of life. Okay, so that's why we try to inspire each other, come together, discuss these scriptures, so that our mind is refocused on the ultimate reality. Right? Tomorrow you go back to office and work, your own family stuff, and you may forget this reality. but we try to, come back to the reality every week, again and again and again and again and again and again. So at some point it settles in your mind, yes, this is the reality and this is the path I need to go after. This is the ultimate, this is the thing that will save my life ultimately. Right? See, why would Lord say like that? Of this there is no doubt. Why? Just imagine, right? He wants our welfare. He wants us to come back to him. Why would he speak about this otherwise? Think about it. This is the love of the Lord for us, right? This is so powerful, right? My voice is choking when I'm trying to read this line. This pure love for his devotee. Yeah. So let's read some of this. Yeah, please continue reading.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes.
In this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service.
So one should practice Krishna consciousness all his life. Krishna is absolute truth. The minute you chant, you are in touch with Krishna. Just like if suppose you have an iron rod, you put it in the fire, what happens? The iron rod becomes red hot and it is as hot as the fire itself. And if you touch the iron rod, it has the same effect as directly touching the fire, correct? You will have the same burning effect. The reason is the iron rod was in direct touch with fire. So similarly, when we become Krishna conscious, or when we chant the holy name, at the time we are in direct touch with Krishna. And that is the purest form. Now, when you are dying, if you are remembering Lord at the time, you are in that nature. So naturally, it's very logical to understand that you are attaining the nature because you are in that nature. Is that difficult? It's a very important concept to understand. You are at the time of death. That is the period of transitioning of your body to the next existence, right? And when the soul is leaving the body, now you're encapsulating that with Krishna consciousness. What happens? It naturally attains Krishna consciousness, right? It's a transitionary phase, and now you're remembering, you're transforming yourself into pure Krishna consciousness. Then what will you attain after that? You would attain the same nature. That's very straight and logical, right? So anytime you chant, what is happening? You are in touch with fire. Naturally, you're empowered. Why would you be the same when you are not chanting versus when you are chanting? When you are in difficulty, when you are answering to somebody, just try to remember, you see the power of it immediately. You have the power of Krishna's energy with you. Okay? So anytime you have a difficulty, take the power of Krishna with you. Chant the holy name. You see the difference in your life. Right? Why would Narada Muni always chant Narayana, 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 Narayana all the time? Why? Why would Prahlad Maharaj always chant the holy name? Are they, these people don't know anything better? And these are the most eternally celebrated souls, right? Throughout history, right? Tukaram, Mirabai, they teach the same thing. Lord Chaitanya, all the acharyas that we have in the parampara. So see here, can you read? Can anybody read this line for me?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be as tolerant as a tree. Taror api Sahidnusha. Sahishnuna. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, so that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness.
So easy, but so difficult in practice. That is the problem with all of us, right? So we need to constantly revert our consciousness to this truth, to this fact, and try to always keep that mantra on your tongue. There is nothing better in this world to achieve than constantly keeping the holy name on your tongue, right? So if you have got anything in this whole class, this is it. Always try to remember Krishna's name. Why would he so emphatically speak about this, right? In all these verses. Okay, so we'll end the class here. We'll continue.
One basic question.
Yeah, yes.
So we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, and is it Hare Ram or Hare Rama?
Hare Rama.
Oh, okay.
Some people say Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yeah, Hare Rama, Ram Rama.
Ra should be there at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Rinku Mataji has questions. Is spiritual body means Karan Sharir? If so, then how does spiritual body and subtle body get separated? Okay, subtle body. So while living in the material world, you have the soul covered by subtle body, further covered by gross body. When you are moving within this material world from one physical body to next physical body, the soul and the subtle body will go and occupy the new physical body. The subtle body remains the same. Now, when one practices spiritual life all his life, what happens is gross body may still be there, the subtle body starts dissolving. His material desires are replaced by spiritual desires. And in this way, his mind, intelligence, and ego are purified. These are once subtle body is totally purified, the subtle body has no desire to take you to the next subtle body to the next body. Body takes you to the next physical body only when it has still unfulfilled desires. But when there are no unfulfilled desires, and in a way you can say the whole subtle body is spiritualized, right? When it is totally spiritualized, the need for subtle body to continue on its existence in the material body is gone, is not there anymore. Now, the soul in that state where it has the eligibility to give up its subtle body completely, it gives up that subtle body and goes to the spiritual world and expands, the soul expands into full spiritual body. The soul is minuscule even there in the spiritual world, but just like when filled with material desires, it expanded its physical body. There in the spiritual world, the soul expands into its spiritual body. Okay? Spiritual body is basically an expansion of the soul in the spiritual world. Okay? That is what the acharyas say. Yeah. Subtle body, gross body, they're all here in the middle. They won't go to the, no. One would not carry that to the spiritual world. Yeah, they're completely different. And subtle body is dropped, gross body is dropped, and completely a jiva goes to the spiritual world and expands its spiritual body. Because he has only spiritual activities there. To do that, he has spiritual body there. Yeah. How exactly it operates, those are beyond the scope of even the scriptures. The details, many details of that. There are some scriptures that refer to some aspects of it, but again, that's not the job here, right? When you are in the jail, the first goal is to get out of the jail. It's not about what you do after you come out of the jail. That's secondary. Yeah. So if your leg is burning and the hot sun, first thing is to find the shelter, right? So our focus is first get the shelter out from this middle world, right? So that's where we land. Okay.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Here in that verse, it says that, if you remember, Lord, you'll attain my nature. So that means that you are a different entity, right? So how did the Advaita Vedantis, like all of these people, believe that you merge with God? Here it says, if you remember me alone at once, attains my nature. It doesn't say attains me or like merges with me, is not what he's saying here, right?
Yeah, it's very clear. That's right. See, Advaita Vedanta, it only refers to one type of mukti called Sayujya Mukti. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sayujya Mukti, where the jiva merges into the body of the spiritual body of the Supreme Lord. Right? They don't have any more independent existence. But bhaktas don't just want to merge, they want to continue to serve in the spiritual world. So they treat this as narakiya. Narakiya means merging into the body of spiritual body of the Lord is considered like hellish for them because they want to serve. They always want to serve. That is their desire. It's like, would you rather serve your child or you want to be one with the child? It's like, putting the child back in the womb, right? No mother wants. You want to have the child and you lovingly reciprocate with each other. That is the whole purpose of expanding your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Similar, like these are all concepts that you can relate. The Bhakti, Bhagavan. These are all very natural concepts. We just need to understand in real terms. Okay.
Makes sense. Thanks, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have a question. So you said that the demigods are actually the devotees, right? So, sorry, Prabhuji, I could not hear.
Pure devotees.
Yes, pure devotees, right? So since
they are not pure devotees. Not all of them are pure devotees. Some of them are pure devotees. I'll tell you the names who are pure devotees. Yamaraj is a pure devotee. Yamaraj. Okay. He is far purer than, for example, Indra, Varuna, Vayu, many of these. Yamaraj. So that is why he was put in that position. If suppose Yamaraj is let me punish this guy, right? So it's a position that punishes, and Lord want to make sure a very soft devotee. Yamaraj's heart is very soft. He has to punish, but that is his job. And being a devotee, he does only as much as required. He has no more pleasure in, or he doesn't take any pleasure. He does it as a service to God. Mother Durga is a great devotee of Lord. She is also like a punisher, right? She's in charge of the modes of nature. She keeps us in the middle world. She wants to make sure only the right people get out of this middle world. Those who have the right qualification, who have no material desires, right? So like that. Yeah. So by the way.
Yeah. So Prabhuji, so what will happen to those demigods? Like they attain the position of the demigods, but at the end of their period, they'll be again transferred to the material world, right? So how do they continue from there? Yeah.
So some of them perform devotion service, and just like we practice, chanting, they practice the bhakti that they are prescribed there. They have different Vedas there. Their Vedas are far, elaborate than ours, right? So they follow their scriptures. They, whatever processes they have. If they do it, they will attain perfection from that planet itself. But the problem is, there is a far superior happiness in the higher planets. So the tendency to enjoy becomes prominent in their consciousness. They don't need to work hard at Microsoft or Google to make their ends meet, right? We all have to work somewhere, but for them everything is arranged. It's all it's all like 5-star hotel there, right? So when everything is going so nice and they're in charges of big affairs, just like a minister, how easy for them to remember Lord, right? It's not that easy. That's why in the 11th canto there are prayers by demigods that may we become children of these devotees of Kali Yuga, because just by chanting the holy name they attain perfection. I want to, in a very short span we want to attain the highest. We don't want to, why we are demigods, but in the ultimate purpose we are not achieving the highest easily in this body as a demigod. Yeah, I can see that verse, and so I can show you the verse. Let me send you next week.
So I think then maybe I understood this way. Like, so these demigods who are not pure devotees, they might have got that position maybe because of they might have done some pujas or which are mentioned in the Vedas, right? To attain some result. Is that the way they would have got that position?
Who got?
The demigods who are not the pure devotees of the Lord.
Demigods are not pure devotees of Lord. They have a lot of faith in Lord, but they also have some material desires.
Okay.
Yeah. So 1 second.
Bhakti, I have a question, a quick question. You said that when we chant, we should say Hare Krishna, not Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
So Hare Krishna, like Hare Krishna is more of an anglicized version of Krishna, because in our language, in Sanskrit, we say Krishna, right? There is no R at the end, or Ram, like not R at the end, not Rama, right?
You're saying, is that the correct way of pronouncing?
Yeah, it is more. Is it more anglicized version of Krishna and Ram? Because we say Hare Krishna, right? Not Hare Krishna.
Whatever I know is that we should say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. That's how I was told to chant when I started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Sanskrit, you pronounce like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Yeah,
Yes.
there is a slight less emphasis on the last A part of it. Yeah, I agree with that. But I in my understanding, either of them is fine. There is nothing, one should be really worried about.
As long as you are remembering the holy name, the way you pronounce does not matter. Okay, correct. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll
Prabhuji, I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
Can we do chanting in periods time? Is correct?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So at any time there is no desikal patra. There is no limitations on that. You can chant sometimes without taking bath, just by washing the face. You can chant. Yeah, there is no desikal patra because holy name is all purifying, just like sun, right? Sun clears everything. If suppose in the villages there is dirt and all of that piled up on the sides of the roads, everything gets cleaned by the sunlight, right? So similarly, holy name is all purifying. So the potency of it is so much that one is allowed to do at any time without any restrictions about time, place, circumstance.
Related to that, one more question, Prabhuji. So if we don't have mala, sometimes we go to some other place and all morning chanting we have to do. So is it okay to chant with something else, like by counting 108 instead of having the mala?
Yeah, that's fine.
But Prabhuji, you're not supposed to touch the beads without having shower, right? You can chant the name.
No.
That's what I was told by somebody.
No, that's not a restriction. No.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, as Rinku Madas, I can answer your question next week. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.